Hi folks, welcome back to my channel. Tonight we will be helping 4 entrepreneurs who have fantastic ideas and need our support. I will be giving my personal advice, but it would mean a lot to me if you guys could also contribute. If you have any questions about what our entrepreneurs say this evening, of course feel free. My colleagues will be looking out for your comments across all the social media channels that we are broadcasting this evening. Just before I bring my first entrepreneur on, Eleanor, I just want to say a few things. You guys know why we're here. We're here to help 1 million people start a business of their own and make sure that anyone that has started a business doesn't feel alone doing it. We offer 15-minute one-on-one sessions, myself and my network, to people that need it. Hopefully that 15 minutes is valuable, but if that's not enough, we also run free webinars where we help people, for example, learn how to scale a business, how to grow a brand, not a business, how to invest, how to find co-founders, how to do all the things that perhaps will give you the knowledge and resources you need to have a successful business. We also have a lot of different, set pieces of content around questions that we've been asked by you guys. And you can go on to platforms like my YouTube channel, where again, there's all sorts of resources that perhaps can help you in your business and get the information you need to make your business a success. We have a podcast show, again, most of you know, but anyone new that's listening this evening, called the Good Luck Club. You can go to goodluckpod.com again and get all the podcasts for free. We interview the world's most successful entrepreneurs and they share their knowledge with us. This week, I've interviewed Nick Jenkins. He is the founder of moonpig.com, which he sold for £150 million. He is, of course, a dragon on Dragon's Den. He was there season 13 and season 14. One of my favorite dragons, don't tell the other dragons. And he talks about why he doesn't like Dragon's Den or what his issues are with the format, which I found fascinating. He talks about his experience being a sole founder. I think you guys will get a lot from listening to his podcast. So feel free, it's all free on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. You can go through to the website to get access to it. We have, as always, we are up against making sure the algorithm notices our content, because we don't charge for what we do, that we don't have millions of pounds that we're throwing at the algorithm to get you in a funnel to sell you a course you don't need, because we're not selling courses, we're just giving free help. What will really help make sure that this content gets out to those that find it useful is if you hit that like button or the share button and let your community know that there's useful, interesting, insightful information here that might well be useful to anyone out there. You don't need to pay for a course. We're here to provide the knowledge that you need to start a business and grow a business for free, and it will always be free. Finally, we have 2 big events coming up. We have a webinar tomorrow night where we have brought on Alan Sugar's PR talent alongside finance investment folks to help you know how to start, grow and scale a business. So tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m, 1 hour earlier than now, we will be giving a free webinar to those that need it. And if you haven't signed up and want to start a business or know how to scale your existing business, please do sign up there. A lot of people ask me how to make TikTok work for them. I have been quite lucky on TikTok, and for a quick shout out to my TikTok followers who are listening in now. I have really enjoyed building up my community there. And if anyone wants to learn how to leverage TikTok, then please come on to our webinar 2 weeks from now. I have Mark Tilbury joining. He has over 6 million followers on his TikTok. His last video got 21 million views. He'll also be there to share his knowledge with you. So that's it, folks. Let's bring on Eleanor, find out how we can help her today.
Hi, Simon.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining. I was just reading the bio you sent through, but my audience, maybe tell them a little bit about what you're up to and how we might be able to help you today.
Sure. So my name's Eleanor. I live in Sydney, Australia, but I'm from the UK. So I have a background in finance. I've been a financial analyst for 15 years. I took a little hiatus about 5 years ago and opened a restaurant. That turned into 3 restaurants. They were very successful. I loved it. But brick and mortar business, it was very time consuming, very expensive, and I had no kind of life. So I sold up and I invested all my proceeds into an app. So I had an app idea. It's in the real estate space. So it's kind of a property management app. It matches landlords with tenants for a low cost, and integrates ratings and reviews. And the whole idea behind it is to make the rental process, so our tagline is kinder, gentler, fairer. But basically to bring that transparency to the transaction that you get like with Airbnb, with Uber, with eBay. So it kind of brings that to the rental process. So we had a successful launch back in November. We paid a marketing company. We got picked up by a lot of national and local publications here in Sydney. We got a lot of downloads. That was in November. Since then, downloads have slowed to a trickle. We've run out of money. We have no more money for another marketing campaign. We're in the process of looking for investors. So we're applying to VC funds, angel investors, etc. But we're aware that process is going to take about 3 to 6 months. So in the meantime, we're kind of a bit stuck. Downloads have slowed and I'm not really sure what to do.
Yeah, it's an interesting problem. And I guess just obvious things that pop into my head. Is there a way you can partner up with property companies that, for example, are only doing selling? Maybe they have a database, a community that you could tap into, or could you work with what might be perceived as a competitor, I guess, but someone in the same space that might like to push out and partner with you?
So we are looking at that. We have reached out to a few potential alliances. For example, student housing associations haven't gotten much traction there. We do have a meeting in a couple of weeks with a big developer here. So they build their own residential complexes and then investors buy the apartments and then sort of lease them through their own leasing program. So we've got a meeting with the leasing part of that company. So hopefully we can do something there. But they're kind of meeting with us as a bit of a favor, I think, because I sort of knew someone that worked there. And I'm not sure. So like, although I think an alliance is a good idea, but for me, I think we would have to change something in the app and we don't have any money to do that. So like, if we were to form an alliance, is it okay to ask them to like pay to change the app how they need it?
Yeah, I'm not suggesting you change the app, mind you. I think more like some affiliate deal, where they might have a community that they want to service, and then you track what happens on the app. How do you monetize it right now? Is there a monetization element within the app?
Yeah, so it's a subscription based. It's a monthly subscription with a small one-off fee every time they place a tenant.
So maybe I'm thinking there's some, the affiliate marketing model is pretty interesting. I don't know if you've looked into it. Have you looked?
I'll have a look at that.
Yeah, maybe just Google it. But basically, it gives you the chance to split the revenue with the person that supports you on the marketing. That's the basic principle. I mean, it's a bit more complicated than that, but that's the basic principle. And so, because another angle on that is to work with influencers. Now, before we get into a marketing campaign, can I just say, I think marketing is a little bit overplayed in the sense that how complicated it is. I actually think it's pretty simple. Have you done a press release? Do you have the ability to write up a press release and just keep pushing out something fresh and new about what you're doing? Because that's really part of marketing. That sounds like the bit of marketing that you had that worked.
Yeah, we do. So the way we did the press release the first time is we commissioned research, and then the press release was based off of the findings of the research. Right. So now the research is a bit outdated, but we could potentially write another press release. So I started a TikTok, which is how I found you. I started a TikTok. So I'm doing answering rental questions on TikTok, right, which is going okay. But that could potentially give us another angle for a new press release.
Exactly. I mean, I think I think press releases are generally underrated as a marketing tool. And if you write the headline for the media, like let's say, TikTok influencer turns property market upside down. Literally write the headline that's kind of hot right now. How are we going to say? Then I think it's it's LA saying I think it's hot right now. If you can find a way to kind of tap into whatever is the news cycle, I just got in Business Insider myself. I was just featured in there because I'm kind of working with a group of people on Clubhouse, and we're really bringing a lot of value to Clubhouse right now. So they wrote a whole story about people that are making an impact in Clubhouse. And so if you can kind of jump on what people are writing about right now and be a part of it. I won't say the company, but I just saw an interesting press release from a rental app that was saying that you can rent a home just like you normally do, but their model is that eventually you will own the home. So it's a rental app, but the rental part of the money goes into an investment system that allows the people over time to eventually own the home they're living in. And so I thought that was interesting, especially in this day and age.
Purchase for homes.
Yeah, but you're using your rent to eventually buy the home, because most people are just renting, right? They're just renting a home. So if they can actually be renting, but eventually the rent also equals they own the home, that's kind of newsworthy, especially now when people are finding it so hard and paying rent. Frankly, buying a property is still out of people's reach because the property market's held up through COVID. But for a lot of people, anyway, just those angles basically is the point. If you can think of, and I think what you're doing is amazing. If you can think of the angle that's going to go, that is something we need to write about. And what I suggest is you go through the media and see what they're writing about to get your finger on the pulse, and try to see what your headline could be. And then I would every single week I would try and send out a press release to the core media and try your luck, because a lot of the time PR is just trying your luck, and it's free to try, right? It doesn't cost you anything. It can be equivalent to advertising. And the problem with going down the fundraising route is that there might, investors want to see numbers, and if you can't get the numbers up, you're going to get yourself caught in a loop, right? Where you need their money to get the numbers up, but they want to see the numbers up for them to put their money in, if that makes sense.
Yeah. We were actually picked up by Business Insider as well from the first press release, which was great. Okay, but that's a good idea. We can definitely do more press releases.
The other idea is to talk to a property company that doesn't have what you've got and see if they want to make a quick investment. And part of the investment can be that they also open up their database and promote your app. Now, I don't know in Australia because I haven't been there for a few years, but Savills, Knight Frank, these big players in the property space, go and try and get one of them to invest. And at the same time, the worst is if you went and had a conversation with 10 of them, one of them might become your partner at least, even if they don't invest, which can open up, as I say, the community they probably manage right now.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I do think there is an opportunity for social media influencer type arrangements. There's a lot of people on TikTok. There's one in particular I'm thinking of who just goes and looks around people's properties and takes TikToks of them. And I think it's quite popular. I quite like it. But if you could do something with them again, where they kind of did a shout out for the app and maybe you gave them some affiliate income from it, could be interesting.
Okay.
Marketing wise, I could go on forever. I guess, the getting investor, you're going to need to get the numbers up. So I actually think it's worth just doing all this kind of what I call earned marketing and trying to get the numbers up, because I think that will also make you feel a bit better that this is actually working, make you more confident when talking to investors.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because it's a little bit embarrassing now. They ask what the numbers are, and they're all from November pretty much.
Yeah, if it helps, it was the same way for Airbnb. They had a little hit when they had an event, and then it dropped off. They had a little hit when it was an event, and then it dropped off. It's just part of life, so don't let it dishearten you.
Yeah, no, I've been working on the app for 2.5 years now. It's been a massive roller coaster. So I'm glad we're finally at least in the market.
How much are you raising?
We're asking for 500,000, and that will hopefully. That will take us Australia wide and also bring us over to the UK.
Right. It's always good just to ask the universe. It's good. So universe, please help Eleanor get $500,000 Australian dollars, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
So we've asked the universe, someone's listening out there, and we have a few hundred people listening across the network now. So who knows? And if you don't know, if you don't want to invest yourself, maybe ask one of your friends. I've got a good feeling about Eleanor's business. So reach out. Are you listed on Angel List right now? Have you put your platform up on some of the investment platform systems?
I put it up on one the other day. So we're up with Scale Investors, which is an Aussie company that helps you find investors, and I think it's called, what's the other one called? PropTech or?
Okay. But have you tried the equity crowdfunding platforms?
The name escapes me. I thought I had it written here. But no, to be honest, oh, here it is. Tech Sydney. I'm on Tech Sydney, so it's a bit more of a local one. But to be honest, I didn't know there were lots of those.
Well,
I could put on.
Go place the app on angellist.co.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, again, once these things, just listing them is a good start. You never know, a bit of luck, someone will spot what you're doing, but it's worth a try. I would Google equity crowdfunding platforms. Excuse me.
Okay.
Dinner too quickly. And you'll find that there's lots of them. I don't know the law in Australia. I know the US and UK and Hong Kong markets because I've spent time in them. But I know in England, for example, there's platforms like Crowdcube and Seedrs, and they might be worth looking at. I don't know what the rules are with cross-pollination of markets, but another idea, just finally, I mean, I'm just throwing ideas out there. You might want to go out of market and say contact a company in England or America or Hong Kong, because I know it, and offer up your technology as a white label option. Now, I know this could be a little bit delicate, and some people listening to this that might be, hardcore investors, they might not agree with this. So take my advice with a pinch of salt, but one, if you want a bridge and you want an income, you could sell the technology or partner with someone in another market and give them the rights, like a franchise.
Yeah.
But, if you said to them, look, we've built this already, you've spent a serious amount of money on it, right? You spent a serious amount of time on it, and you could go to the UK with it, and you could say, look, I license it to you for 2 years, and then after that, if it works, then I'll make you either a partner or give you a royalty, and they pay an upfront fee, maybe half of what you paid on development costs, for argument's sake, right? That could give you you can open up another market, and you could generate some money. Just a thought. I'm not saying it's a good idea. It's just a thought, right?
Maybe, yeah. It is actually something I've already spoken to somebody in the UK about. So, yeah. But that was a while ago, so I hadn't thought about it recently.
Yeah, why not? I mean, if you get a partner on board, again, I think sometimes when you're in this sort of spot, what's good about it is it makes you kind of hustle a bit, right? It makes you, if you just get money, I've seen plenty of businesses that get a lot of money that fail. Sometimes when you're kind of back up against the wall, it is actually a good chance to reflect and think what is going to make this work, and think a little bit outside of the traditional way of doing it. I know the idea of getting an investor sounds like, oh, money comes in, problem solved, but you're still going to have the problem of having to get the app out there. So in a way, if you could solve the problem of getting the app out there, it will make you more cautious about the investor that you bring in, because you won't be so, frankly, in need.
Yeah.
And you can take your time, because all you're really needing to do right now is make this app work. If you make the app work, then money will come, because you've got a model on it. But yeah, it might be that an investor comes in and says, drop the subscription model, make it free, and then eventually, you can monetize over time, right? But that's when you need a lot of money. That's a different strategy, I think, to the kind of hybrid you've got right now.
Yeah, we're doing it kind of free at the moment. So we're offering a 90-day free trial just to get people on the platform.
Right.
But yeah, we can't afford to keep doing that ourselves.
I'm assuming you've reached out to people like Zoopla, which is the big property platforms that list property, right?
Not yet. So over here it's realestate.com and Domain. So we're kind of just planning our approach, trying to think about what it is exactly that we want from them before we reach out to them. I actually had a meeting with my business partner about that on Monday.
What's the concern? You concerned they might copy you?
No, not concerned particularly. More just trying to think about the best way to approach them so that we can keep our messaging, because obviously they work with a lot of real estate agents, and our messaging is cutting out that real estate agent. So we just have to think a little bit carefully about making alliances that.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Real estate agents, basically.
I don't know enough about the nuance of the business but I know. I think I know. I mean, the other idea, just one more final thought, is there's a lot of media that are in the property business, right? They're either magazines, websites. They could be good partners.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to get them to write about you as a PR release, you could approach them as a potential affiliate partner.
Yeah. Okay.
So again, I know there's a lot of big property portals in Australia. And maybe it doesn't even have to just be Australia. That's just your test market. It doesn't have to be the only place you have a media partner. And they're all desperate to figure out new ways to monetize their content, right? So if they can support an app that's useful for people that then gets downloaded and everyone makes some revenue from it, then they're just monetizing their existing community, and they all need to do it.
Yeah, that's a really great idea. Awesome. I've got a page full of awesome ideas.
Great. Good. Well, let me know how you get on, and yeah, do post it up on Angel List, and if you tag me, I'll try to share it with the community that I have there. I got a good feeling about what you're doing, so I hope it all works out, Eleanor.
Thanks, Simon. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thanks. I'll see you soon. Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Tina, hi. How you doing?
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for your patience. So we're running a little bit over, but I'm here for you. How can we help you today? What's up? What's going on? What do you need?
Thank you. So I'm based in Copenhagen, Denmark, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on my plan to scale and which marketing to prioritize in a time like this for me as a makeup and hairstylist. Because before I was in the wedding industry, which has taken a little bit of a hold at the moment. I'm still getting bookings for the summer, but I've taken, actually, just to make a note on that, that's really positive actually, because it means people are still interested in my services. But as you said with Eleanor, being backed up against a wall has led to a bit of a different plan to scale, which I came to think that I could teach other people and other aspiring makeup artists how to do makeup and make like a 20-hour course or something. And then later on, I can hire them out to people on a commission basis and sort of becoming like a portal. Do you know Blow Limited?
No, I don't.
It's, do you know Treatwell?
Oh no! Don't test me. Are these makeup related sites? Are they or?
They're both in England. They are basically beauty services that travel to the homes of people.
Right. Okay. I feel like I should know them. I probably need them, especially right now my COVID hair, where I haven't had a haircut in 6 weeks. But yeah. But no, I don't know them. But that's an interesting model. Yeah.
Yeah. They're doing quite well actually, and. I think also the restrictions for them is easier than the restrictions for salons because there's only one person going to them. But anyway, that's my plan to scale, because there's only so many appointments I can do personally. And sometimes I were to get an additional booking that I couldn't take. So I tried to grow a network of trusted artists, so to say, so that I could sell them the lead sort of by introducing them to the client and taking a commission on that. So I'm wondering if you think that could be a model to make sort of like an Uber for makeup in an app. Obviously, there's the 30% to App Store, so it's taking quite a bit of a chunk out of it. But it's been a thought, because it's always easier to book through an app. But maybe not something for now. Yeah, because I want to scale in a way. And I'm wondering if my focus is better spent on a marketing agency for Google and Facebook ads, or influencer campaign, or content. And I'm kind of torn due to the limited resources and tough luck where to prioritize my marketing. I
understand. And I think I'm still trying to get to grips with which part of the business you want to push forward. I mean, there sounds like two models there. The actual makeup, or I guess the Glow Limited business model, that sounds like a franchise model. So you would set them up with the training and the system, and then they would go and, of course, do the work. and you could have, I guess, two options. You could charge them a franchise fee and a percentage of turnover, right? Or another way, which is what you just said, the Uber booking model, which every time they make a booking through you, you take a cut. Maybe also said the App Store takes a cut, but that's another model. So which one do you think? I mean, first of all, the app one. Do you have an app built? Do you know how to build an app? Is that something you feel comfortable doing?
I've had a quote on it, but I think maybe doing a hybrid app could be a good middle way. But the reason why I'm thinking about it is because the way I'm doing it right now, it's not super efficient, because I have these freelance artists on my WhatsApp, and then if I'm not available for a client's request, I basically send them the freelancer's portfolio on email and ask them, oh, so I'm not available, would you like my colleague instead? And 90% of the time they say yes. And then I end up introducing them through WhatsApp, and I take a prepayment as my commission, and then they take the rest in person. And it happens maybe 10, 15 times a month in normal times, and it's becoming more of that.
It makes total sense, actually. I can see it. And you've got an MVP there, right? I would build up your WhatsApp group. I would say, John just said quite rightly, I wouldn't do an app. I think you can do this through a website.
Yeah.
First of all, you lose money to the App Store, plus you have to go build an app and so on. Don't spend money doing that. I would build out your WhatsApp group initially. Just what you've just explained there is quite clever. And I think if you can get it to 100 a month, then maybe you need a bit more of automation. Maybe you can get yourself an assistant.
Okay, yeah.
You know, not everything requires building technology or something too crazy. I build my websites on GoDaddy, and they're pretty good. They're SEO'd. It took me an hour. They're about £50 a year.
Yeah.
60, 70 Australian dollars or whatever a year. What currency are you? You're in the UK, are you? Where were you?
I'm in Copenhagen, Denmark. I used to work in the UK.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So whatever currency, you're in euros there, right? That's definitely
Danish kroner.
Oh, right. Okay. So but anyway, it's not expensive. Is the main point I'm trying to make. Sometimes people jump to an app, just like as John in my communities just said. You can do it through a website, but initially doing it through WhatsApp's pretty efficient. And if you can just the amount of clients you've got, so maybe your existing clients, just go back to them and say, anybody else that might need my service? And then push out to your network, anyone else that might need my service, and see if you can build up the supply and demand side. And if you can get 100 people booking through you, and then you're able to place it with a friend and take a commission, that revenue can then, I think, justify, you could get investors, you could build it out. I think you'd have a lot of proof of concept, right?
Yeah, that because I've been thinking about that. If what I'm doing actually is investable, and I heard you say in another chat that sometimes it's better to take on staff and maybe give them a percentage of the company instead of investors. And I am actually trying to keep a hold of most of the equity myself, at least for the first couple of years, because it's working, and I like scaling and then reinvesting myself, because then I can grow at the speed I am developing instead of just getting everything at once and not knowing what to do with it. But I have actually gotten an offer from a marketing team, and maybe I can share it with you and you can see if it might be good. So basically, my average client net profit is £130. That's around 2.5 hours of work, and that's after costs, before tax. And the cost per click in my scene is not that competitive. It's 80 pence. And an agency I reached out to has told me their minimum goal would be 10% conversion rate on the CTR, which would be around £6 or £7 cost of marketing per client. Their cost for doing this is £350 a month, and then it's the ad budget on top of that. They have told me I would have to sign to a 12-month plan, but they will include an entire website to heighten the conversion rate and a video to make it more personal. But I'm wondering, why would I stay with them after the 12 months? Because they would already have set up everything. And I'm wondering, if you think
the
that's
detail matters. The detail matters. So, for example, the contract you sign, there might be who owns the source code for the website, who owns the actual intellectual property, who owns the database that's come through from doing this. So, on the surface of it, it actually sounds quite interesting.
Okay.
I'm not against, using providers, but I would get a reference check or two from other clients to see how they were treated. Get clients that are using them now and a client that used them a year later to see what tricks they to make you stay as a client. I owned an agency for 15 years. And so one of the big things in my agency was our ethics, that we would never hold someone's website, for example, and blackmail them. But that is the industry. That's how they lock you in, right? You sign for 12 months and then, oh, well, actually that database is ours. The website is ours. And then you end up getting caught in a bit of that. So I'm not saying they're like that. I don't know them. I'm saying that's the thing to watch out for with a too good to be true story. But and just be a little bit careful, how the ad spend works. So do they actually spend all the money? How's it tracked? How do you know? Are you spending the money or are you giving them the money and then them spending it? Lots of common sense elements to it. But actually, I mean, if you think about the numbers, that works, right? If you can.
It does.
The only thing I would say is I do think that type of marketing is a little bit overrated when what you really do is get each client to give you 3 referrals. And then those 3 new clients, you take care of them incredibly well. And you ask those 3 clients for 3 referrals. And that is the best way to build a brand in the early days, in my view. The click-through is a little bit spammy. I mean, I'm personally kind of sick of all these ads. And I do think there might be a nicer way to do it. Maybe there's a marketing element you could do, like, a free treatment on someone's birthday, and maybe in return they just take pictures on their social media and share it. Like there's all sorts of ways to get your message out without having to necessarily go through what I call a click funnel system.
Those 3 referrals, would I just kindly ask for them, or would I offer an incentive?
I would just kindly ask for them. People are pretty nice, actually, if you just ask for them. Not everyone needs something.
No, that's true.
Try your luck with that. I mean, if you've done a good job, I refer people all the time. I never think twice. Sometimes I need reminding that I should refer them. They've done a good job for me and taken care of me and I like them. Why not? I think especially now more than ever, that's one of the few things we can do to help businesses right now, right? It doesn't cost us anything to like on their social media. It doesn't cost us anything to say something nice about them if we like them to someone else, right?
So maybe just before they pop out after the styling, I say something like, if you enjoyed my services, it would be very nice if you could share that with your friends. So I'm not sure how I would phrase it.
I think, it's just, I'm building my business and I'm looking for referrals. Did you enjoy the service? And 2, if you did, would you mind either referring people to me or posting about it on your social media? It would mean the world to me right now.
Okay, that's a good way to say it.
Being sincere and honest and open. Try your luck.
I will definitely do that. And if the intellectual property all is mine, both the ad account and the other one, do you think it would still be worth a try with the ads on Facebook and Google?
Why not? I would only say that sounds like money being spent when maybe you can just go slow and try the organic way first.
It
depends on how, I'm going to say, aggressive you want to be. Because in reality, pressing all buttons on marketing is a good idea. So doing the referral and ads, I would just say that, if you get the referral thing working right, then you don't need to spend money on ads and get into a space you don't know, right? Because you're going to have to rely on someone else, right?
Exactly. And you mentioned, what's that?
You're going to have to trust someone else. So that, I just feel like if you can get referrals, you actually don't need to trust anyone with stuff that you don't understand. You can just do it yourself.
What about influencer marketing? Would that be something?
I know it's got a bit of a slating recently, but I think if the influencer is someone, genuine, who you've genuinely helped, I mean, frankly, Kim Kardashian saying that she uses your service. That's it. You're set for life, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't think it's something to be ignored. I don't see why you wouldn't tap into that. Maybe that's even worth tapping up a few influencers and saying, would you like to, you know, would you like me to take care of your, you know, your makeup or whatever? And maybe in return you could do a post about it. Why not try? The worst is they say no. The best is they say yes, and you get a bit of free exposure for your time.
Okay, yeah. So you would maybe recommend just reaching out to them and not offering money at first, just to see if they're interested.
No, I personally think that the deals get done for three reasons. One, you like each other. Two, you need each other. And then the third, yes, there's a financial element. But if you get the first two right, you don't need to worry about the third.
No.
People want to help people. So as long as you're genuine, not trying to use them, maybe you can check out what they're doing, see if there's some way you can support them in return. Maybe, you know, initially you just do a bit of research and be pleasant, polite, authentic. I think people will help you. They don't jump in there with money. First of all, I don't feel like you've got a lot to spend. And two, that's not what motivates people. I think maybe that's something you need to think about, by the way. Maybe if you gave a percentage of your profit to a charity or you supported a cause. So I have a podcast show, for example, and there's 800,000.
Yeah.
But a lot of people come on our podcast show because we're doing it to help other people. We're not doing it to make ourselves famous, right?
Yeah.
So if you put your purpose before your profit, I think you'll find a lot of people then will be very happy to support what you're doing.
I agree. I will have that at the front of my mind.
Good. Well, a lot of people are commenting. I throw them up on screen about thoughts. So you can watch this video later if you want to read the comments. But I want to thank everyone for contributing. But I hope you found that useful.
Thank you. I did. Thank you so much, Simon. Thanks for having me on, and have a good evening.
You too. See you soon, Tina. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, David.
Hello, Simon. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Very good.
I've had someone from Australia come on this morning. I wonder if that's your influence.
Not well, no, it wasn't my influence. I wouldn't claim credit for that.
So I think we have an entrepreneur coming on to ask you some questions. They have not arrived yet, so I thought we could catch up. You do look very fit, by the way. You said to me you got fit. You look quite mean now.
Yeah, well, it's been an exercise of being very data driven. It's something I guess I practice, but I've used every single data point that I could during COVID to try and stay focused. So yeah, it's worked well. Yeah. So normally this person should be here already, but they haven't arrived. So it's one of those Zoom moments. Either they've got the wrong link or we've mucked up, or I don't know where. It's okay, actually. I was a few minutes late joining. I was having a little bit of trouble myself with the link, but it's all good now. What
time is it where you are?
It's 8:10.
8:10. Okay. What's the plan for today? I feel like I've got to fill time by catching up with you, and everyone's listening in. So you've got to tell me something interesting.
Well, what's interesting, I guess, in terms of world events at the moment, we've got a pretty good situation down here in Melbourne. I think COVID's probably not the biggest distraction down here, at least for now, which is good. So a little bit of normality. Interesting, the Australian Open has kicked off as well. Not sure if you've been tuning into that, but we've got some small crowds there, which is good for world entertainment.
And so it's basically all normal now, is it? There's no major issue.
It's as close to normal, I think, in a COVID situation as you'll get down here, but it changes by the day. Every time there's a case, we reimpose restrictions or they shut borders, but I don't think anyone would feel particularly inconvenienced at the moment down here. I think the governments as a whole have done a pretty good job in Australia. So I think we're quite fortunate.
What's been their secret?
I like most of probably the Western world, I think people have never really been used to wearing masks, and some of the things that have been prevalent in the Asian countries. Obviously, I lived and worked in Asia for 14 years and dealt with things like swine flu and SARS and these types of things. And I think it was fairly commonplace to accept some of those controls that governments put in place. But I think people just got over it in the end and accepted the new normal to a large degree. I think the lockdowns on some of the human contact type situations, particularly restaurants and enclosed spaces, I think that's probably where it hurt the most. So, interestingly, Simon, you obviously have a massive number of business owners that look to you for guidance and advice. The unfortunate situation with those lockdowns is there's so many small business owners that have suffered. Melbourne, where I live, where the hospitality scene is so prevalent, has done it very, very tough. So that, whilst I'd say at the moment we're not overly inconvenienced, it's been very tough for a number of people, particularly those small business owners.
Was there a furlough scheme like in England? People that couldn't work because of the restrictions were paid about 80% of their normal income. Was there a system like that in place in Australia?
No, not so much to my knowledge. I think it's been more a fact of just a very strong encouragement to work from home, and the government came out with various schemes to effectively keep people employed. So they didn't call it a furlough scheme, but in effect it operated in a very similar way. And a lot of that is starting to run out now. Now that the restrictions are not too heavy. Most of the cafes are back and operating. The ones that survived, I should mention that, because a lot of them didn't survive.
Yeah, it's the same here in England. I'm seeing shops that closed because they were told to for the lockdown, just literally boarded up. So yeah, I mean, that's why, frankly, I want to thank you for coming on this evening and helping, because I think a lot of people need support right now to get through it. So with that said, I see Patrick is here. So Patrick, come on. Hey Patrick, how you doing?
Hi there, how are you guys?
Good. Well, we've never met Patrick, but it's nice to have received your request. And so I'm actually here to kind of facilitate today. David's the expert, so I'm here just to kind of introduce you both. Patrick, can you start off by telling David and the audience listening a little bit about what you're doing and how we might be able to help you today?
Yeah, I'll try and condense it into a 60-second soundbite very, very quickly. So I'm Canadian. I've been in London for about 10 years, and I created a company called the Academy of Financial Empowerment. And essentially what we're looking to do is reinvent the way companies tackle financial well-being at work through one-on-one coaching. So the way our company works is we actually integrate a financial coach into a business as part of the benefits or rewards program. That might be 1 day per month if the company is a bit smaller, or it might be a few days per month. And employees can just access a financial coach, go in, book a one-on-one 45-minute session that's completely independent from the business to talk about anything that they need in terms of personal finance, which is kind of topical, especially this year.
Interesting. David, I'm going to let you run with it. Is there any more you want to tell us? What do you need exactly, Patrick?
Yeah, so it's I've spent the last year sort of working one-on-one with football clubs. My background is Manchester United. I used to sell sponsorship for them for about 5 years, and I saw a lot of players being taken advantage of financially, and so that's where I started with football clubs, but quickly realized that's not a long-term sustainable model. They have a lot of money to spend on players, but not so much other things. So I pivoted quite quickly to B2B in terms of rewards programs.
Okay, and so now you need what exactly? What are you here to get from us today?
So the biggest thing is kind of two questions. One is definitely looking to onboard our first customers in the next quarter, start getting recurring monthly revenue. We've got a few great conversations going, but still need to sort of establish those first few customers. How can you build trust with brand new customers when you're a brand new business? They say, great, who do you serve? And you don't have a laundry list of customers to tell them. That's probably the first one. They love the idea, but haven't quite got buy-in yet because we're so new.
Okay. Patrick, I'd say it's a fascinating space that you're in. I think this concept of well-being, and I spent a good 14 years in banking where we talked about financial well-being in so many different contexts. And one of the things that I think the banking system, aside from a few exceptions, has never been particularly good at has been the awareness and education aspect of it. I always think of an example here in Australia where I'm based now, where Commonwealth Bank, the big bank, always started that financial education in the primary school, and they had this thing called the Dolomites that, as a child, you get a piggy bank or a little savings thing. You put some coins into it each week, and you start those regular savings habits. But life gets a lot more complicated as you get older and as you bring on different complexities into your life. And one of the things that I think is sadly missing is that financial education. So I think your product that you are looking to bring to market, I think, is definitely something of need. Have you thought about geographically, regionally, or which segments as far as the B2B offering that you're really zeroing in on to prove out your concept?
Yeah, so to prove out the concept, definitely starting in the UK, just because I'm so familiar with the personal finance system in the UK, tax-free investing, things like that. So starting in the UK, and specifically which companies we're targeting, we're looking to target startups who actually really do care about well-being and culture and are willing to invest in that. It's a lot harder to go into something like BP or sort of these big, massive companies and try and shift the way they do things. I've heard that directly from HR directors at those companies. It's just too difficult. So 100 to 500 people, sort of startup companies, but have established revenue and are starting to invest in things like culture. That's kind of the target B2B company we're looking for here in the UK, just to prove the concept.
And as far as technology is concerned, obviously Simon and I were just having a bit of a discussion about the impact that the pandemic has had on the world. With that one-on-one coaching, are you looking at a digital delivery platform, or is it based on a face-to-face model, which obviously at the moment has some challenges?
Yeah, so looking to be a fully remote company if possible. So right now we do have a minimum viable product. I'd be able to deliver the solution to a business tomorrow, but it is a bit of sort of MVP style. It's a bit scrappy put together. Eventually, if I can prove the model in the early sense, what I would love to do is create a backend, almost like a CRM system, to keep track of employees, do the virtual calls, take notes to make sure if they get a different coach on a different day, that they're not repeating themselves, that it's very, very consistent and seamless, regardless of which coach shows up to do the session. So technology is a little bit for the future, but definitely thinking about it, because when we get enough businesses, there are enough employees, it'll just be too hard to keep track with what we've built, what I've built currently. I'll need sort of a system to track them.
Interesting. And when you did your market segmentation, going after the startup markets, I was listening to one of Simon's podcasts last week and picked up a few tips myself through that. But
thanks, David, for the plug.
Interesting that you've chosen the startup world as an entry point, and that's certainly going to give you, I think, at least open-mindedness. Anyone who's going out and starting a business, that they're generally starting with a very open mind. They can be a lot easier to crack than, say, as you said, a BP or a very large corporate. But the propensity to pay for your service, have you dissected that a little deeper? Often a lot of the startups are very cash-strapped, or they're bootstrapping their business, so they're quite selective about the things that they would pay for. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so right now what we've started to do, instead of just being sort of very salesy about things, what I've started to do is potentially user interviews through LinkedIn, and it's in the last few weeks got a lot of traction. I've had a lot of great conversations or quick exchanges with some pretty senior people in HR departments. So that's where I'm starting, and I'm kind of asking them the question themselves. Do you think this is a sort of area that's underserved? Almost 98% said yes. And kind of asking the question, are you sort of willing to invest in this particular area? And the response hasn't been overwhelming yes, which I would love to hear, but certainly enough yeses to give us encouragement. So that's kind of the way I'm going at it right now, is just testing whether they would invest in this space through user interviews, through LinkedIn. And that's kind of where I'm currently at, literally this week, doing that.
And with your, let's call it your MVP or your initial pilot, why would people trust your advice? I found in my banking industry, we went through real cycles of where trust between the banks and the customers was lost, and it typically came down to fees and wrongdoing in terms of mismanagement of sales processes, as an example. Why would they trust your service?
So there's sort of two double-edged sword to this. The one way we are pitching it is that We are not independent financial advisors. We are not a bank looking to sell you any type of loan or mortgage. We are 100% independent education. That's what we're there to do. We don't have any ulterior motive or other incentive to sign you up for anything. It's something I came across big time with the football clubs. They'd have sort of big financial houses or companies in. They eventually started rejecting them because all they wanted to do was manage players' money. So that kind of put them off. So that opened the door for me to come in as completely 100% independent. I'm not looking to upsell them to anything else. So that has gained quite a lot of credibility instantly with a lot of companies who've had bad experience, maybe bringing in a financial advisor, things like that. And so I thought about actually going out and getting qualified as an independent financial advisor, but it kind of went against our philosophy, is that 95% of people in the UK and the country really should be managing their own financial system. They don't have the sort of net worth or anything to be getting that financial advice. Most of them can pretty simply do it on their own, and we want to encourage people that we have all done it on our own and that they can do it too with the right education. So that's how we're building a little bit of credibility. If I find too much resistance, like where are your qualifications? I haven't felt that yet, but if I find too much resistance on where are your qualifications, are you FCA regulated, things like that, I think I will remove myself as kind of the head coach, the lead financial coach, and actually bring someone in with those qualifications that tick the boxes for companies to make them feel safe. But so far, we've actually gotten some really good credibility just being 100% education only.
Very good. I think one piece of advice that stuck with me, and in the startup world, it's one that it may be a little bit overused, but I've always loved the Airbnb model of finding 100 customers that absolutely love your product as a way of actually proving out whether you've got a scalable business model. I think the fact that you've chosen to go down a digital path by virtue of the platform, similar to what we're using right now with StreamYard, you should have the ability to relatively easily scale your product. The sophistication of your consumers will likely grow over time, and you may want to start your business fairly raw, if you like, in terms of just the one-on-one conversation. But as time goes by, I would expect some of those users of your product will want some visualization tools, as an example. They want to see the effect of their behaviors. How does that actually translate into better financial well-being and outcomes? So, with respect to those tools in your product roadmap, where do some of those types of things fit?
So I already do have those products built, again, more on an MVP level for private. I do one-on-one personal finance coaching with individuals. So I have a lot of those tools built already to quickly calculate their net worth so they can see all their finances in one place. So I have thought about those tools a lot already and would definitely integrate them into the sort of CRM platform and just be able for coaches to drag and drop the tools into someone's profile that fits them. They don't need everything. If they don't care about buying a house, you don't need the mortgage calculator, things like that. You can just leave it off, but you just have the coach kind of drag things in and drop the tools that are necessary to that particular client. So I love the idea of evolving with the company that we work with. They'll have turnover. There'll be new employees that come in that can access our program. But also, you have different questions, like you said, at different points in your financial life. So we really do want to be sort of a permanent part of the fixture in a company once we actually get in and grow with the company in terms of their size. If they scale up, great. We have more coaching days we can give you. But also, as their sort of employees evolve throughout their financial journey, we can be there with them. So we think that once we do get sort of our hold in a company, that we could potentially be a customer. They could be a customer for life. That's kind of how we view it.
And when you think about similar well-being platforms, there's quite a number of them out there, not necessarily targeting financial well-being. I'll share a bit of a mistake that I think I've made in my career. Any time that I was seeking to disrupt, which is unfortunately a very overused word, I find in the industry in which we operate in, but we would typically try and completely reinvent the experience. And I was as guilty as anyone in early stage of my career. I would figure that I'd take the most difficult path to try and reshape consumer behavior or to get them to do something differently. The problem with that is your percentage of success is generally quite low. I'm not saying I wasn't successful in actually changing behaviors at some point, but it requires a massive amount of energy and focus to do that. So when you think of the existing platforms that may be delivering a coaching or wellbeing service, what have you learnt from some of those platforms? And I'm gonna name one, not the exact platform, but it was interesting. Simon and I had a catch up after quite a while, and he was talking about Chinese tutoring as something that was a need. So I went out and researched some of those platforms and thought that space has really evolved. There's actually some pretty good platforms out there. So, where are you looking for that guidance on what's likely to work in this coaching wellbeing context?
So I'm looking kind of at my competitors and trying to do something different, but also looking at someone who's doing something quite similar to me in a different space and kind of riffing off what they've done already. So in terms of my direct competitors, they're basically what I consider these EAP, so employee assistance programs. They are sort of these massive websites that are all singing and all dancing. Employees can go in, learn about financial health, well-being, mental health. It's just like almost like searching the internet. They just have blog posts they can access. Most people that I know never access these HR portals. They're just more work than anything else. And personal finance is a lot like fitness. There's just so much information out there, and people just want a one-on-one touch. What do I need to focus on? Where do I go? What is something that I can do immediately to help us? So the one-on-one aspect is something we're doing that most people aren't. They're looking to be able to service a BP, and there's no way they can do that kind of stuff on a one-to-one basis. So the one-on-one is kind of our USP, the helping guide, so the guide to help them on their financial journey. The other thing that I'm taking inspiration from is another company that's doing almost exactly what we're doing with mental health in the workplace. So specifically mental health. So they actually implement a coach into the business, and they've been very, very successful in the last 18 months here in the UK. So we're just kind of riffing off of them. We're a little bit behind because mental health is extremely important, absolutely, but it does have a lot of the limelight right now with a lot of the campaigns. I feel that financial health is just trailing a little bit behind, but it is the next, in my opinion, shoe to drop, and that is what I'm kind of betting on and what I'm hearing from HR directors, that it's the biggest thing that they're missing, which is like the missing piece of the employee well-being puzzle. So I've seen traction with this model with another person very similar in my space, just with mental health. So I am kind of seeing early signs of it working in some cases.
Fantastic. And another thing that we've seen during the pandemic, obviously the rise of Zoom, and when you're looking at a B2B delivery model, you can't escape the fact that the other major video collaboration platform has been Office 365 through Teams. So organizations are living their lives day in, day out on these platforms. Have you thought about building integration points into either of those two platforms as a way to enable you to scale?
You mean I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question. How to integrate us into Zoom or 365?
Well, Zoom at the moment, I don't believe that they've launched these. They're calling them Zaps or Zoom apps, the shortening for that. So many of the world's biggest digital platforms have now built integrations directly into
Gotcha.
Zoom, not just in their marketplace, but a direct integration into the Zoom platform. So there is an opportunity or a window, I think, for organizations willing to use that as their entry point into a coaching type service, because the platforms are natively built for exactly what we're doing now.
Yeah, so we do have a couple integrations that we use. We do Zaps into the Zoom product. So basically what happens is our link essentially will live in the HR portal of the company. An employee can go in at one click of a button. They'll be able to they currently can very seamlessly book in a session with us, completely independent from the business. So we're starting to use some of those Zaps and some of those integrations in Zoom. Zoom is the platform we're sort of delivering all the sessions on going forward. So we've started to do the integration. I'd love to have my own CRM system one day, but that is certainly down the road. We're kind of using the programs that already function really, really well to deliver our service to companies remotely. Very
good. And from a competitor landscape viewpoint, there's obviously Silicon Valley heroes like Zenefits. I should verify that they did originate from the Silicon Valley, but they really went out and owned that space in the US market. Not sure if they ever launched in the US. In Asia, there's a similar organization called CXA. Was speaking to the founder quite recently, actually, someone I think Simon knows as well. Do you see those types of broader employee benefits platforms as competitors, or perhaps partners that will also help you get more quickly potentially into a customer base?
Yeah, the big one here in the UK is Perkbox. They've kind of really owned the employee well-being space. And I do see them potentially as a partner in the future, almost like a benefits broker. I know that a lot of companies use a benefits broker. They'll go to a broker saying, who do you got for financial health? Who do you got for mental health? Who do you have for sort of gym memberships? So I think eventually I could use them to my advantage. I feel like right now I'm just too small of a minnow for those brokers to really sort of care. And I also don't have a history or a big track record of wowing customers yet. So I totally appreciate a broker isn't going to sort of use me to introduce them to a company yet. But I definitely would love to be part of sort of using those brokers like Perkbox, getting my name in there with them, building a reputation to eventually use them, to sort of integrate me into even more companies. Absolutely.
A brief conversation I had with Simon prior to you joining. Simon was commenting that I look at a little bit different. I think I caught up with Simon face to face about 2 years ago in the UK, and I was a good 12 kilos heavier. One of the things that I really focused on was, I think, terrific for my own mental well-being during the lockdowns and stages of the pandemic is this concept of being data driven. Being absolutely obsessive about measuring data points every day. So the small gains that I was making each day were mostly measured through my Apple Watch and through a Xiaomi Smart Scale. And I was able to get something like 27 different data points. And that motivation, the little game mechanics that were reminding me every day, was I closing the rings, or was I seeing a reduction in body fat, or whatever the measure was. I cannot describe how impactful that has been for me personally during the past year. Now, when you think of financial well-being, is it really any different? The concept of actually having some small nudges, maybe having a financial well-being score, something that, can be hugely motivating for people that don't necessarily every day of the week think about financial well-being. There's a lot of people who don't really, really care about it until they find themselves into trouble. Where does that sort of gamification or game mechanic, fit in your current MVP or roadmap?
So it is slightly in our MVP. I wouldn't say we're fully gamified yet, not at all. But there is one specific tool, a pretty cool goal-setting tool that we have built that is gamified like that. You kind of have maybe 3 big financial goals. Then those goals are broken down to steps. Those steps subdivided into actions. So you have a clear roadmap of all the little actions you need to do to complete a step, and all the steps you need to complete to actually finish the goal. And there's kind of a meter for every box that you tick. It's kind of keeping track of your score from 0 to 100%, how you're doing. So that's what I'm doing right now with private clients. We kind of start at the beginning, and then at the end of the program, we look back and see how far we've come each step of the way. So that's what I'm doing with my one-on-one clients. I don't have that yet built for the employees, the individual ones that I would meet with at companies, but that's very interesting. How could I sort of bring that over and introduce that to actually show them the progress that they are making? Because you're right, I totally agree. I'm now a junkie on the Peloton bike during my time in lockdown, and they tell me all the data points, and I love it. There's another side, though, that some people don't like all that overwhelming data. I am someone like you. I do like it. Some do feel that it's just very, very overwhelming. They're falling behind. It's actually hindrance rather than helpful. So I haven't had it yet integrated, but I am starting to think of ways to gamify things a little bit more to incentivize people to engage with their financial health.
Very good. I think there's also other platforms that you may want to think about beyond Teams and Zoom that have really good potential, and that they may not be front and center. So the accounting system Xero is another one. I think obviously you've got many financial services firms already on the platform, plus startups, plus some reasonably large sized businesses. So potentially building integrations into some of the platforms like that, it could be another pathway for you to scale quickly. my initial reaction is I think you've got a service offering here that is, as I said in the beginning, definitely in need. There are so many people out in the world that need to get a better handle on their financial well-being, and it does lead to other problems in their lives. You know, I think back to when I was in the banking side, and I used to listen to call recordings. It was a really regular habit that I'd have. I'd go into the call center and I'd just pick out 10 or 12 random calls, and you know, the most depressing thing for me listening to those calls is, you know, at least probably 15 to 20% of those calls were people under serious financial distress. They'd gotten themselves into a high level of consumer debt, and there was no clear pathway out of it. And, you know, your average bank call center person, they're not trained to give any financial advice. They're just trained with an inquiry. And then you think, what happens? What happens when the phone's disconnected? Where do they go to for advice? A lot of them, you know, just really struggle. So I want to encourage you to really pursue your model here, pursue your dream, and, you know, build this out and make it a reality, because it's something that's absolutely in need.
I didn't quite realize how heavy it was. I didn't realize it was the number one stress of UK employees in this country is money, more than work, more than relationships, more than family. When I kind of dug into the data about how bad it is, and 1/3 of adults have less than £1,500 saved, it's certainly a bigger problem than I actually anticipated when I started this.
Is there a reason that you're going the B2B route and not the B2C route?
In terms of like going full on one-on-one sort of consumer coaching? And
yeah, for example, I do a lot of stuff on TikTok. I can see a lot of people giving financial advice on TikTok, and it's very popular. I don't know if what's the reason for not going B2C, or at least trying that angle?
Yeah, I have sort of flirted a little bit with kind of YouTube, Instagram, things like that, the B2C level. I'll be perfectly honest, it's not something I've enjoyed that much. I did it for about 3 to 6 months in sort of YouTube. It took up a whole lot of time and a whole lot of energy, especially me being sort of the solo founder. It ate up so much time. It's not something that I'll completely ignore and is off the table, but for the amount of time it was demanding versus the returns it was getting for about 3 to 6 months, I couldn't seem to crack it. I couldn't seem to execute on it well enough. Whereas the sort of the B2B, it seemed, more my style. I have a lot of connections at previous employers I've worked for. It was enjoyable for me. So I kind of just moved away from the sort of social consumer side a little bit. Having said that, I just did film a webinar today for YouTube. So I am sort of trying to test that market again, and actually put some money behind paid social ads as well. So I haven't abandoned it, but it just wasn't my favorite thing to do.
I get it. I guess I feel like there's always this element right now with COVID, on top of the fact that, you know, as David said quite rightly, startups tend to be really careful with money. It's quite hard to convince them to spend money. Your original question 20 minutes ago was how to get a client when you don't really have a track record, right? Or a list of clients to talk to them about, right? So I want to hone back into that for a second, just as we finish up here, and try to understand, you know, exactly what it is that you're missing, because you're very confident, Patrick, and I think some of the things David said today, like zero and all of that, so hopefully useful. But I wonder, you know, what we can practically do to help you right now. Are you saying you don't have clients right now, or you need more clients?
We don't have a corporate client yet. We've got 3 sort of pitches out to them, hopefully some good news for the next quarter, but currently no recurring revenue from a B2B client. But we've only been talking to them for a few weeks. Oh,
okay. Well, that's fair enough then. The other downside of corporate relationships, and I sold David a big program. It took me, he was particularly fast, but still took me 3 months to get the paperwork done and get the deal done. David and I think we shook it in like 5 minutes, but then, you know, pushing it through the system, right? It takes time for the system in the corporations, big corporations, to agree things. So, yeah, I mean, it's just interesting. I think it's getting that first client is so crucial, and then looking after them so really carefully so you can build a case study. And if you get that right, I think the floodgates open. I mean, I honestly think I'm looking at Google opening up in King's Cross, for example.
Down the road from me.
Yeah, if you can get that, you know, that sort of, they're going to make a big deal of that when they open it up. And I think if you can get in there and make yourself part of their flagship offering, because a lot of it will be virtual advice, not just the physical environment. It'll be about what they do. There'll be a lot of stories in the press about what they do to look after their people. And if you can be part of that PR, or even get a big name partner, then once you've got one client looked after, then that's it. Mine in Hong Kong was AIA, and then I managed to get David on board at DBS, and then I managed to get Infinity on board, which is Nissan, and we did this program kind of together. But once you've got one on board, I think the others, it's easier, right? So I think just maybe patience.
Yeah, I've noticed that from football clubs. So the same thing was happening a year ago when I started sort of going down the football route. No. I sort of got one, then the reputation built, got 3. And so now we've done 10 football clubs, including Manchester United, Derby, teaching all the young academy players about financial education. So I saw the domino drop. It was a real tough struggle the first 3 to 4 months to get buy-in. But once you did, you proved your worth and your value, then it snowballed quite quickly, and clubs were emailing me instead of me sort of pushing so hard.
You know the process. But the only thing I would add, and David, maybe you can jump in because you've got much more of an understanding how these organizations work on the inside. But sometimes if you go to HR, they might not be the right department, by the way. As bad as it sounds, it could be a PR department, because they might want to not only look after their people, but PR that they're looking after their people, especially now when people are suffering. So just another angle. I mean, I always went as high up as I could go. That's why I spoke to David at DBS, go as high up as I could when he was there, just try and talk to the people that also gel with you and understand what you're trying to do. And sometimes HR departments, they're not, in my experience, they're not the most proactive. They're actually very cautious as a department, right? So I wonder if another department is also worth you pushing.
Yeah. Sorry, David, go ahead, please.
Well, Simon's point's very valid. I was actually thinking he was talking about who's your actual buyer. And some of this, in larger corporates, it often comes down to who has the budget. So if you're trying to sell into a big corporate and you're asking them to spend something that isn't already set aside, just like the advice, I guess you're giving your, I won't use the advice, just like the coaching you're giving your end consumer, your product. If you're asking them to spend money that they didn't already allocate for a similar purpose, that can be more challenging. Sometimes the training budgets might sit functionally, or they may sit with an HR division within the company. So I think that's something you've got to figure out. The other big trend, I think at the moment, it's rare that any sort of medium to large corporate doesn't have some kind of employee wellness or employee experience program. So most of my career has been on the technology side. I've always had small teams that may not occupy, a large share of what we're doing, but I've had small teams that are very much focused around bringing literally anything that benefits employees to the table, running experiments, seeing where we can get traction with new ideas and concepts that we can test and learn with our employee base. So, you may find even within some of those larger corporates that look big and scary, they could potentially be a good entry point for you. And, again, the story Simon said is very true. The program that he referenced in Hong Kong, I was one of those, representing one of those big, scary corporates. I think for the listeners, Simon, from memory, I think it was 8 attempts that we took to get that program off the line. And I remember having my own self-doubts being an entrepreneur in that context, whether I'd actually get this thing across. But, fortunately we did. And we ended up building something, very, very impactful in the Hong Kong market with that. So that persistence element, to get your first clients, and then your first 10 clients, your first 100 clients, you have to be very persistent. Don't be put off by setbacks. Sounds like you've had some real learnings from your the football domain that you've been very actively involved with. So carry those learnings and really stick with it.
The other thing I think about this is, first of all, I had a champion in David inside the institution he was in. And I think someone that actually believes in what you believe and believes in what you're trying to achieve, and then they will help you navigate the corporate. Now, you've sold sponsorship for Manchester United, so you know a lot of this, but one angle just to kind of get you thinking a different way. And initially, I wonder if you'll think this is a bad idea, but what about approaching Peloton Bike and saying their clients they could sell a support service to their clients. What about people like Calm, the app? Maybe it doesn't sound like it's their thing, but you're talking about making people calmer, right? Happier, financially more zen. Is there an angle outside of the people you traditionally approach? Because I bet you they're not being approached to not only look after their people internally, which is what you're pitching, but maybe you'll also see their customers as potentially people that you could support if you can scale up the service that you're offering. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, it's something I haven't kind of thought of, those brands that you sort of pulled out as examples. It wasn't something that kind of instantly came to mind. But the more that I'm just kind of pondering on it is the most people that I talk about, they think financial health is completely encapsulated within mental health. It's part of it. It's an extension of it. So
Calm on board. They could also be an investor, a partner. They could help you with the technology. I just think sometimes think outside the box from who you normally approach, because I would say, even Google, who I mentioned earlier, all these other institutions, most of them are, everyone's approaching them with something, right? But I reckon if you go in with the health well-being approach with Peloton Bike or Calm, you might get a pleasant partner and even long-term investor, or even eventually an acquirer for what you're offering.
I totally like your point as well about finding a champion. I've kind of struck some chords with people I've spoken to. They've obviously haven't told me in detail, but maybe they had some of their own financial troubles in their life, or it could resonate with the story, and they kind of pick up the torch and carry it for you internally. So yeah, absolutely.
Go to the founders of those companies. Go right down the top 20 kind of successful startups in the health and well-being space, and talk to the founders, founder to founder. I think you'll get a win there.
2 of my 3 proposals are through founders. So talking to other people outside HR department, 2 of the 3 proposals out there are founders. So spot on.
Yeah, very cool. All right. Well, I hope myself and David have been useful to you today.
This was great. This is really, really brilliant, especially as a solo founder during COVID. It can be quite remote and quite lonely. So I appreciate all the advice I can get. So thank you very much for your time.
No problem. You're getting a lot of compliments from people online, really loving your assertive, positive way, Patrick. So thanks for coming and sharing your story.
I would also add, Patrick, it's interesting. You actually remind me of another founder in which Simon and I invested in that company, which went on to be incredibly successful, just demeanor-wise. So I've got an introduction I'm going to make for you post today as well, an organization I think could really help you. But I want to wish you all the best. I think you've got a great concept brewing, and with that persistence, I think you've got every chance of making that a real success. So good luck with it.
That's really humbling. Thanks a lot, David. Appreciate anything.
The person he's talking about, Patrick, is incredibly successful and really a go-getter. And people like Peter Thiel have invested in him as well. So it's a big compliment coming from David, but I know what he means. It's funny. It's a funny old world we live in. All right, guys. Well, nice to see you both. And let's catch up soon. And good luck, Patrick. David.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for today, folks. Thanks for coming on and helping our entrepreneurs. I saw all your comments. Peter gutted. I saw all your useful advice. Brendan, as always, thank you. And I appreciate John. I did saw all of your comments and appreciate all of your shares, all of your insights. I hope that we will be useful again tomorrow. We are live tomorrow at 3 p.m. with another podcast where we will have another series of entrepreneurs coming on and hopefully getting some help from us. So please join tomorrow. In the meantime, enjoy this week's podcast with Nick Jenkins. He sold his company Moonpig for £150 million and has an incredible story about how he did it. So go check out goodluckpod.com and listen to Nick's advice. His insights into the world will blow your mind. All right. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening.